to the car. So today then is International Holocaust Memorial Day. Basically it's the day 77 years ago that the Soviet Union liberated Auschwitz-Birkenau, the deadliest concentration camp of them all. Although when you're looking at sheer size and deadliness, Treblinka for its size at a time was the most deadly, but overall more people died at Auschwitz, but it was ginormous, hell on earth. There couldn't be anything worse. But the story of the Holocaust is horrific, and just going back to the 1930s, what were you thinking, Germany? What were you thinking? You know, Hitler came in at a time, and you know, I'm not in any way going to say anything good about him, but he was a dark, devious, some might say clever man in certain ways. The way he would get into the mindset of a nation. So it was around this sort of time when the Nazis came to power in 1933, and what they did was pretty horrific. Nice little traffic jam here to make it nice. So they got into power, they closed down Parliament, they stopped other parties from being formed, they totally got rid of communism, which was their biggest hate, because why not? They saw that as leftist Marxism, which would go down as the problem of the Jews, which they really disliked, because they also disliked religion, of course, because, you know, whatever the Christians tell you, Jesus was a Jew. He was born a Jew and he died a Jew, and for some reason they hated that, so they got rid of the Christian church. Probably the only person really in Europe that might have stood a chance of stopping Hitler would have been the Pope. Well, guess what? The Pope also hated the Jews, so little chance of that happening. We will get out. So the chances of the Jews actually having any chance in Europe with anyone slightly religious, the leader of the Catholic Church, was ever so slight, because, as I say, he wasn't exactly a fan, and in many ways he supported Hitler. And there are some that say he actually supported the Holocaust, which is horrendous, you know, to think that that could have been a thing. I don't personally believe that any religious figure of that size, and I'm not saying every religious figure is by any means good, because they're certainly not, and you know, you can take or leave people's religions, that's their choice. But it was the crime of the Holocaust, not just the murder, but it was what they did leading up. And you got to think, they got into power in 1933. They really punished Jews. They stopped them from working. They stopped them from having certain positions. They stopped them traveling on trains. They pretty much threw them into concentration camps. They took all of their wealth, because, you know, not every Jew would have been wealthy, but there were some who were extremely wealthy. The sensible ones left and went to Israel, or to the United States, or somewhere which wasn't in mainland Europe. If you'd managed to get to the UK, I'd like to think you're safer, but let's not delude ourselves with the Brits all being, oh, we're nice, we wouldn't have done that. Nobody thought after the end of the First World War, if anyone was going to attack the Jews, it would have been the German and Austrians. I'm including Austria in there because, let's be fair, there was, you know, where does Adolf Hitler come from? Oh yeah, Austria. So it's strange that they allowed some little Austrian Mongoid take power of Germany and basically destroy it. You know, he wasn't an economist, he didn't give a monkeys about money coming in and things like that. All he was interested in was his propaganda, and for some sick reason killing the Jews. The way that they blamed them for the deaths of people on the front line, the fact that they blamed the Jews for signing the Treaty of Versailles was fictional, to say the least. You know, they had nothing to do with it. It was nothing to do with them. It was 100%, you know, as much anyone else as it was them. They blamed the communist left wing as well. They were also fighting, so you can't really blame them. You know, not every Christian or other religion, you know, they were. Let's look at today. You know, look at the UK. Let's have a look at the UK today. You know, we've got as many people who wanted us to leave the EU as did wanted to stay in the EU. Well, you can put them into voting for whatever party you like, and you know, we voted in the Tory party. Well, kind of regret that now personally, but there you go. I think our current Prime Minister is an embarrassment to our country and a bona fide liar, allegedly. You got that on tape, yeah? You got that on tape, yeah. I don't personally trust Boris Johnson, and I will not vote Tory until Boris Johnson is no longer the Prime Minister, and then it depends on who they've got to replace them. Because, you know, I feel so. In the way Labour have had to reprove themselves not to be xenophobic, the Tories have got to prove themselves to be trustworthy and not a bunch of stealing, cheating liars. You know, what they did doesn't matter. Whatever they did, it certainly wasn't as bad as what the Nazis did. So it's 100% get that right. But where was I? So yeah, so what they've done is they've gone in, they've made it so that they can only own so much money. So any other money they have to give over. Everyone knows who they are and where they live, which means that they've really got a little chance. They then decide, right, we're going to kick you out of your houses and you're going to move into these certain areas. And in Poland, obviously, films like Schindler's List and The Pianist, you get to see them moving into the, what are they called? The ghettos. So you get to see them move into the Krakow ghetto and the Warsaw ghetto in The Pianist, Krakow in Schindler's List, and then they become basically stuck there, little or no money. They're not allowed to really earn money. There's not enough food to go round. So what they sickeningly do is they have certain people who are in charge who have to share the food out. And of course, what are you going to do? Are you going to give it to some random stranger, or are you going to feed your family? So you found that your family were fed, and they found an evil way of doing things here. Then they had Polish police and the Polish leaders. Incidentally, most of these ended up burning in death camps, including Auschwitz-Birkenau, which is the memorial of today. So, once this had happened, they claimed all their property. So they basically were paying for their own transport to a death camp to be either worked to death and starved, or gassed, shot, however, and that was it. That was them done. And then they were just thrown onto a pole, burned, chucked in the ground. Didn't matter. They weren't human anyway. They were seen as subhuman. Chucked onto a cattle truck of trains. Some of these were so long, and about 100 into a box, which you'd probably get 10-15 cows into, or animals into. They would fill them up, one bucket of water, one bucket for your bodily functions, and then you'd be stuck on this train, sometimes up to 5 or 6 days more. Never been allowed to get out, not even having enough room to sit down. No food, no water, very little water. If it was snowing outside, you froze. If it was hot outside, which it would have been in the summer, you basically fainted. You had 4 small little windows, don't know what's been on the films, which circulated very little air, and people died. Quite a lot of people died before they even got to wherever it was they were being taken. They were guarded. People were shot in the trains and all sorts. And then you were taken out at somewhere like Auschwitz, forced to get out, bring your luggage with you, which was now going to be sorted by maybe some on that train, but people were in what was known as Canada. It's called Canada because Canada was neutral, so they called it Canada, I believe. That was why they called it Canada. And then probably 70 to 85% of those people were then sent to their death immediately at one of the crematoria or a pit or somewhere where they were shot, gassed. And then a few would have been kept who had skills. They were then put in the most horrific barracks, which should have maximum, I think originally it was just 700, and then they said no, we're going to squeeze more in there, and over 1,000 people in these tiny little huts. So imagine when you were back to school and you had your little huts, imagine getting about 1,000 people in there sleeping. 9 to a bunk, although there wasn't much of a person left by the time they got into these bunks because they'd been so starved. They were literally skin and bones, little more than that, and they were forced to have inspections. So these vile doctors would basically abuse them, and then take any worldly good that they may have had, stole them. They stole their identity by cutting off their hair, which was then sent back to Germany to make linen and stuff, lining and stuff for bedding and whatever for soldiers. And you were basically now at an absolute bottom of any chain. You were the worst of the worst. You had little treatment. You barely got any food or drink if you were lucky, and you couldn't even drink a puddle because, as horrendous as that sounds, there's a good chance you'd get typhoid and become even iller if that was possible. Obviously, as these bodies became ravaged with malnourishment, their immune system became non-existent, I would imagine, and so many died of disease. The bedding was horrendous, allegedly. There was very little bedding, and yeah, wasn't a nice place to be. And the fact that so few people actually were put on trial for crimes against humanity, and even less were actually found guilty is horrendous, and it's an embarrassment really to the world. Anyway, so that's my little tribute to the sad deaths of many a person of the Jewish faith. Hope today you find some kind